Well, Hurricane Florence could likely take down power lines and cause widespread outages. Millions are bracing for the storm, and some evacuating and some are hunkering down. Those in the path of the hurricane will need to be prepared for blackouts. CNET editor Dan Ackerman joins us now for those tips on how best to stay connected and prepared. So, Dan, what exactly, you were telling me yesterday that there are actually some apps for people who can get the latest on weather updates and updates on Hurricane Florence as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of information available, and it's pretty easy to get. You should download these apps onto your phone before you start having trouble in your area, before the power goes out, before the internet goes down. FEMA has an app, and that gives you a lot of information on how to get extra help later, how to apply for aid. They also want you to upload your photos so they get a better view of what's happening on the ground. The Red Cross has a really good hurricane app. It's actually a specific hurricane app from the Red Cross. And besides a basic storm tracker, what I like about that one is a detailed map of where all the Red Cross shelters are, and you can zoom in really tight and see exactly where they are and get the address and even send the directions to your mapping software on your phone. And the Weather Channel also has a specific app, a storm tracker app, separate from the regular Weather Channel app, and that is incredibly detailed. It'll show you all the different layers, precipitation, clouds, wind speed, and then it has an animation. You can go back a few hours and 6 hours into the future and watch the animation of where they think the storm is going to go.
So what are the really limitations of apps like these? When you choose these apps or sites, what do you also need to keep in mind when you're receiving these updates?
Yeah, the data is good as long as you can get new data. And obviously, you probably can't download these apps in the middle of the storm if your power is already out, if your internet is already out, if your cell service in your area is already out. That's when it's hard to get updated information. So it's good to get these apps and download the most recent maps from them ahead of time. And in some cases, I tell people to get something like iHeartRadio, which is a radio streaming app. It just works with hundreds of radio stations around the country and turns those over-the-air broadcasts into internet streams. If you don't have power to power your old radio, if you even still have one, you can listen to local radio on your phone over the internet if that's still up, but that has a better chance of being up than your power, and that is where locally you get a lot of the best information is from your local radio station. Still a very important resource.
Yeah, absolutely right. And Dan, you had a really creative way, you were telling me yesterday, about actually staying charged, because these apps use up a great deal of battery power. Tell me about that.
Oh, sure. And if you're in a blackout area, your phone you're going to go through that phone power very quickly. And you can keep a backup battery, the little ones around, but they don't last very long. What happened to me during Hurricane Sandy here in New York in 2012 is I went ahead of time and dug a couple of old laptops I had out of the closet, plugged them in, make sure they were charged up. I wasn't going to use them for anything. And then when the power went out in the lower third of Manhattan for several days, which is where I lived, I used the gigantic batteries in those laptops to charge up my phone several times. You can get several full charges, run them up and run them down out of the laptop. And almost everyone has some old laptop in a drawer in a closet that hardly works anymore, but you just haven't gotten around to throwing it away yet. That's a giant battery you have that you can keep charged up.
Dan, you were on with us yesterday talking about the new iPhones. What's changed, though? Hurricane Sandy was 2012, 7 years ago. What's changed? What do you need to know about these new devices and these old laptops?
Yeah, the one thing to keep in mind if you want to try that laptop battery trick is laptops don't always have the same plugs that they used to. They used to all have regular USB ports, and you just plug that directly into your phone cable. A lot of the newer laptops, especially MacBooks, only have USB Type-C cables. That's a different type of cable. You just want to make sure you have the right adapter to get your phone plugged into that laptop to get that power, or your other device. Otherwise, you've got a battery and you've got a device that needs power, but you don't have any cable to connect them.
All right, Dan Ackerman, such great advice. I never would have thought of that old school laptop that could help you charge in a blackout. Thanks so much for joining us, Dan.
Thank you.